to 300 myriads of kois of Buddha Bhagavats, and practice the pure path of discipline and integrity, seeking for the wisdom of the Buddhas. Having offered respect to the highest and best of humans, and having completely grasped the ultimate wisdom, he will become a Buddha while in his last body. His land will be pure. The earth will be made of lapis lazuli, and many jewel trees will be in rows, along roads bordered with golden cords, and those who see it will be gladdened. The air will be always LED, with a pleasant fragrance, and many beautiful flowers will be strewn about. Various wonderful things will adorn this earth, which will be level, without hills or hollows. There will be an incalculable number of bodhisattvas there, who will have the power of self-control, be versed in transcendent powers, and who will preserve the sutras of the Mahayana, taught by the Buddhas. The multitude of Avakas, bearing their last bodies, free from corruption, heirs of the Dharma King, will also be unreckonable. Their number will be impossible to calculate, even with the divine eye. The lifespan of this Buddha will be 12 intermediate kalpas. 104. Chapter 6. The true Dharma will last in the world for 20 intermediate kalpas, and the semblance Dharma will also last for 20 intermediate kalpas. Thus will things be with the Bhagavat Ramaprabsa. At that time Mogalayana, Subshti, and Muktiyana were all charged with excitement, and with palms pressed together they attentively gazed at the Bhagavat, never turning their eyes from him. They immediately spoke these verses in unison. O Bhagavat, great hero! O King of the Dharma of the Kyas! Bestow the Buddha's words upon us, out of your compassion for us. If, knowing the depths of our hearts, you give us your predictions, it will be like cooling our fevers, by sprinkling us with the Dharma of immortality. It is as though someone coming from a country suffering from famine were suddenly to end a great king's feast spread before him, yet is stricken with doubt, and does not venture to eat, until, being instructed by the king, he dares at last to do so. We are exactly like this. We have been constantly thinking about the faults of the inferior vehicle, and so we had no knowledge of the way to obtain the highest wisdom of the Buddha. Although we hear the Buddha's voice saying that we will become Buddhas, we still have doubt in our minds. 105. 21. The Lotus Sutra. As if we dare not eat the meal. If we receive the Buddha's prediction, it will immediately put us at ease. The Bhagavat, the great hero, always wants to put the world at ease. And so we entreat you to bestow upon us your predictions, as though to starving people waiting for permission to eat. Then the Bhagavat, knowing what lay in the thoughts of the great disciples, addressed the monks saying, this Subshti in the future will meet, respect, venerate, praise, and pay homage to 300 myriads of kois of Naotas of Buddhas, and he will always practice the pure path of discipline and integrity, and complete the Bodhisattva path. In his last body he will become a Buddha called Yasaskitu, Atathgate, Arat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans. Buddha, Bhagavat. His land will be called Ratnasabhava, in the Kalpa called Ratnva. Psa. The land will be even and the earth will be made of crystal and adorned with jeweled trees. It will be without pits, pebbles, thorns, or the lth of excrement. The earth will be covered with precious ores and will be everywhere pure. The people in this world will all live in wonderful towers with jeweled terraces. The Avakas, the disciples there will be innumerable and limitless, beyond calculation and metaphor, and there will also be innumerable thousands of myriads of koyas of naotas of bodhisattvas. The lifespan of this Buddha will be 12 intermediate kalpas. The true Dharma will last in the world for 20 intermediate kalpas, and the semblance Dharma will also last for 20 intermediate kalpas. This Buddha will always dwell in the air, teaching the Dharma for the multitude, and he will save incalculable bodhisattvas and avakas. Thereupon the Bhagavat, wanting to explain the meaning of this verse, spoke these verses. 106. Chapter 6. O monks! I shall now make something known to you. You should attentively listen to what I have to say. My great disciple Subshti will become a Buddha called Yasasketu. He will pay homage to innumerable myriads of koyas of Buddhas, and, following the Buddha's practice, he will gradually come to complete the great path. He will attain the 32 marks in his last body, and his form will be any and beautiful, just like a jeweled mountain. His Buddha world will be ultimately pure. Of the sentient beings who see it, there will be none who do not rejoice. There the Buddha will bring incalculable sentient beings to enlightenment. In the midst of his Dharma, there will be many bodhisattvas with keen faculties who turn the irreversible wheel of the Dharma. This world will always be graced with bodhisattvas. There will also be incalculable numbers of avakas. All of them will have perfected the 3 sciences and the 6 transcendent powers, will abide in the 8 liberations, and have great dignity and virtue. The Buddha will expound the Dharma and reveal immeasurable, unthinkable, transcendent powers. All the devas and humans. 107. 21b. The Lotus Sutra. 108. As numerous as the sands of the Ganges River will listen to the Buddha's words with palms pressed together. The lifespan of this Buddha will be 12 intermediate kalpas. The true Dharma will last in the world for 20 intermediate kalpas, and the semblance Dharma will also last for 20 intermediate kalpas. Thereupon the Bhagavat addressed the monks, saying, I will now tell you that this Muktayana in the future will honor, respect, and pay homage to 8,000 koyas of Buddhas with offerings. After the parinirvana of these Buddhas, he will erect stupas, each of which will be 1,000 yojanas in height and 100 yojanas in both width and depth. These stupas will all be constructed of the 7 precious treasures, gold, silver, lapis lazuli, mother of pearl, agate, pearls, and rubies. He will pay homage to these stupas with many ores and necklaces, fragrant ointments, scented powders, burning incense, canopies, ags, and banners. After this he will also pay homage to 2 myriads of koyas of Buddhas in exactly the same way, and, having done so, he will perfect the bodhisattva path and become a Buddha called Chmna with Makronpso, Atath Gate, Arat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed. Knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans, Buddha, Bhagavat. His land will be level. The earth will be made of crystal and it will be adorned with jeweled trees. The roads will be bordered with golden cords. And beautiful oars will cover the earth. It will be pure everywhere and those who see it will rejoice. There will be none of the four troubled states of being, namely the hells, hungry ghosts, animals, and asuras. There will be many devas and humans, and immeasurable myriads of kois of avakas and bodhisattvas will grace this world. The lifespan of this Buddha will be 12 intermediate kalpas. The true Dharma will last in the world for 20 intermediate kalpas and the semblance Dharma will also last for 20 intermediate kalpas. 21c. Chapter 6. 109. At that time the Bhagavat, wanting to explain the meaning of this further, spoke these verses. O monks, listen carefully. What I shall say is nothing but the truth. This Ktyana will pay homage to the Buddhas with various wonderful offerings. After the parinirvas of those Buddhas, he will erect stupas constructed of the 7 precious treasures, and offer respect to their relics with herbs and incense. In his last body, he will attain the wisdom of the Buddha, and will achieve complete enlightenment. His world will be pure, and he will save incalculable myriads of kois of sentient beings. He will be venerated in the 10 directions. There is nothing that surpasses this Buddha's ray of light. So this Buddha will be called Jnana. There will be innumerable, uncountable bodhisattvas and avakas gracing this world, who have shaken free from every state of being. Thereupon the Bhagavat again addressed the assembly saying, I will now tell you that this Mamorgalayana will respect, venerate, and pay homage to 8,000 Buddhas with various offerings, and after the parinirvas of these Buddhas, he will erect stupas, each of which will be 1,000 yojanas in height and 100 yojanas in both depth and width. These stupas will be constructed with the 7 precious treasures: gold, silver, lapis lazuli, mother of pearl, agate, pearls, and rubies. He will, the Lotus Sutra, offer them various oars, necklaces, fragrant ointments, scented powders, burning incense, canopies, ags, and banners. After this he will pay homage to 200 myriads of kois of Buddhas in exactly the same way, and will become a Buddha called Tamle Patrakan. Dhanaganda, Atath Gate, Arat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans, Buddha, Bhagavat. His world will be called Manobharma in the Kalpa called Ratiprapra. The land will be level. The earth will be made of crystal, adorned with jewel trees, and strewn with ores of pearls. It will be pure everywhere and those who see it will rejoice. There will be many devas and humans, innumerable bodhisattvas, and avakas. The lifespan of this Buddha will be 24 intermediate kalpas. The true Dharma will last in this world for 40 intermediate kalpas and the semblance Dharma will also last for 40 intermediate kalpas. Then the Bhagavat, wanting to elaborate on this meaning, spoke these verses. This disciple of mine, Mamorgalayana, having abandoned this body, will meet 8,000 and then 200 myriads of koyas of Buddha Bhagavats. For the sake of the Buddha path, he will pay them homage and respect them, and always practice holy conduct, brahmacharya, of discipline and integrity. In the presence of these Buddhas, he will uphold the Buddha Dharma for immeasurable kalpas. After the parinirvanas of these Buddhas, he will erect stupas, constructed with the 7 precious treasures, on which golden banners will be long displayed. He will pay homage to these stupas of the Buddhas. 110. 22. Chapter 6. With urs, incense, and music. After having mastered the Bodhisattva path step by step, in a land called Manobhurma, he will become a Buddha, called Tamle Patre Kandanaganda. The lifespan of this Buddha will be 24 intermediate kalpas. He will always expound the Buddha path for the sake of devas and humans. There will be countless avakas, as numerous as the sands of the Ganges River, who will have perfected the 3 sciences and 6 transcendent powers, and have great dignity and virtue. There will be innumerable bodhisattvas, resolute and persevering, who will never turn away from the wisdom of the Buddhas. After the parinirva of this Buddha, the true Dharma will last for 40 intermediate kalpas, and the semblance Dharma will also be like this. All of my disciples, 500 in number, who are endowed with dignity and virtue, will also receive my prediction. In the future they will all become Buddhas. I will now explain the relationships that you and I have formed in past lives. All of you, listen carefully. 111. Chapter 7. The Apparitional City. The Buddha addressed the monks, saying, once upon a time, immeasurable, limitless, inconceivable, incalculable kalpas ago, there was a Buddha called Mabhijnpibtathgate, an Arhat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans. Buddha, Bhagavat. His land was called Susabhav in the Kalpa called Marapa. O monks, it has been an extremely long time since this Buddha entered Nirvana. Suppose there were a man who ground the earth of the entire great manifold cosmos into powdered ink, and he were to then pass through a thousand worlds to the east, where he let fall a single particle of ink, the size of a speck of dust. After passing through another 1,000 worlds, he let fall another particle, and he continued in this way until he had completely used all the ink. What do you think about this? Do you think that a mathematician or a mathematician's pupil would be able to count those worlds to the last particle or not? O Bhagavat. No, they could not. O monks. Suppose that all the worlds this man passed through, whether letting fall a particle or not, were all ground into dust, and one speck of this dust were equal to 1 kalpa. The time since the parinirva of this Buddha surpasses this number by immeasurable, limitless, incalculable hundreds of thousands of myriads of koyas of kalpas, and through the power of the Tath Gate's wisdom and insight, I can see his distant past, as if it were today. Thereupon the Bhagavat, wanting to elaborate on the meaning of this, further spoke these verses. I recall that in the past, immeasurable kalpas ago, 113. 22b. The Lotus Sutra. There was a Buddha, the most honored among two-legged beings, called Mabhijnpib. Suppose there was a man who vigorously ground up in its entirety the earth of the great manifold cosmos, and turned it all to powdered ink. After passing through 1,000 worlds, he let fall one particle of ink, and in this way, he continued to let fall particles, until he had used up all the ink. If all these worlds, those where he let fall a particle, and those where he did not, were to be ground into specks of dust, and one speck of dust were equal to a single kalpa, their number would be surpassed by the number of kalpas that have passed since that Buddha's parinirvana. So incalculable has this number of kalpas been. With the Tathagatas unobstructed wisdom, I know of these bodhisattvas and avakas, and the parinirvana of this Buddha. It is as if I see his parinirvana today. O monks, you should know that with the knowledge of the Buddha, which is pure and subtle, incorrupted and without obstructions, I perceive what happened immeasurable kalpas ago. The Buddha addressed the monks, saying, the lifespan of this Buddha, Mabhijnpib, was 140 myriads of koyas of nay, taras of kalpas. When that Buddha was seated on the terrace of enlightenment, after having defeated Mra's army, he tried to obtain highest, complete enlightenment, yet the Dharma of the Buddhas did not appear to him. In this way, even after having sat cross-legged for 1 to 10 intermediate kalpas. 114. Chapter 7. Undisturbed in body and mind, the Dharma of the Buddhas still did not appear to him. At that time a group of 33 devas prepared for that Buddha. A lion seat 1 yojana in height under the Bodhi tree, for this Buddha was to attain highest, complete enlightenment on that seat. As soon as the Buddha sat on this seat, all the Brahmas rained down various heavenly oas for 100 yojanas around. Periodically a fragrant breeze would blow away the withered oas and they would rain down fresh ones. In this way they unceasingly paid homage to the Buddha for a full 10 intermediate kalpas, raining down these oas continuously until his parinirvana. The devas of the 4 quarters constantly struck heavenly drums to honor the Buddha, and in the same way all the other devas made divine music for a full 10 intermediate kalpas until his parinirvana. O monks! The Dharma of the Buddhas appeared to the Buddha Mabhijnpib after 10 intermediate kalpas had passed, and he attained highest, complete enlightenment. This Buddha had had 16 children before he renounced household life. The eldest child was called Jangara. Each child had various kinds of rare toys. After hearing about their father's attainment of highest, complete enlightenment, they all put aside their toys and set out for where the Buddha was. Weeping sad tears, their mothers saw them off. Their grandfather, the wheel-turning sage king, went with them, along with 100 ministers, and hundreds of thousands of myriads of koyas of people. When they arrived at the terrace of enlightenment, they all wanted to approach the Tathagata Mabhijnpib, and pay homage and respect, honor, and praise him. They came up to him and bowed until their foreheads touched his feet, and then circled around him. Attentively, with palms pressed together, they gazed at the Bhagavat and spoke these verses. The Bhagavat of great, virtuous dignity. In order to bring sentient beings to the path. After immeasurable koyas of kalpas. And perfecting all the vows. Finally became a Buddha. How wonderful! There is nothing more auspicious. 115. 22c. The Lotus Sutra. 116. The Bhagavat is truly extraordinary. He sat tranquil for 10 intermediate kalpas. With his body and limbs immobile. His mind was always calm and never distracted. He has attained ultimate, eternal tranquility. And is RMLY established. In the incorruptible Dharma. Now seeing the Bhagavat. Who has serenely attained the Buddha path. We receive Binay and celebrate. With great joy. Sentient beings, ever suffering. Are blind and without a teacher. They are unaware of the path that leads to the extinction of suffering. Ignorant of the way to seek liberation. From one blind state to the next. Those in the troubled states of being daily increase. While the devas decrease. They never hear the Buddha's name. Now the Buddha has attained the highest, serene, and incorruptible Dharma. Thus we and the devas and humans shall obtain the greatest Binay. Therefore we all bow and pay homage to the highest Lord. At that time the 16 princes, having praised the Buddha in verse, requested that the Bhagavat turn the wheel of the Dharma, saying, O Bhagavat, teach the Dharma. Put all the devas and people at ease. And Binay them through your compassion. They spoke further in verse, saying, O hero of the world! The one who has no equal. 23a. Chapter 7. 117. Who is adorned with 100 merits. And has attained the highest wisdom. We entreat you to teach. For the sake of the world. And bring us and all the other sentient beings to the path. Illuminate and reveal this wisdom. So that we may attain it. If we can become Buddhas. So can the other sentient beings. The Bhagavat knows the deep-seated intentions of sentient beings. And the paths they practice. As well as the power of their wisdom. May the Bhagavat, being wholly aware of their positive intentions, accumulated merits, and past deeds, turn the highest wheel of the Dharma. The Buddha addressed the monks, saying, when the Buddha Thijnphib attained highest, complete enlightenment, ve 100. Myriads of koyas of Buddha worlds in each of the 10 directions quaked in 6 ways. The dark places between the worlds, where the rays of the sun and moon had been unable to penetrate, were brightly illuminated. The sentient beings there were able to see each other and said, how is it possible that sentient beings have suddenly appeared here? Moreover, those worlds from the heavenly palaces up to the palaces of the Brahmas, also quaked in 6 ways. The great ray of light shone everywhere, filling the worlds with a radiance that surpassed the light of the devas. At that time the palaces of Brahmas in the ve 100 myriads of koyas of worlds in the east were illuminated twice as brightly as usual. The great Brahmas each thought, the palaces are illuminated now as never before. What has caused this phenomenon? The Lotus Sutra. At that time all of the great Brahmas approached each other to discuss this matter. In that assembly there was a great Brahma called Sarvesattva Tata who spoke to the assembly of Brahmas in verse, saying, "This illumination of our palaces has never occurred before. Let us send out the reason for this. This great ray of light has illuminated the 10 directions. Has a Deva of great merit been born? Or has a Buddha appeared in the world?" Then the great Brahmas of the 100 myriads of kois of worlds went toward the west with their palaces to enquire about this phenomenon, carrying heavenly oas in their robes. They saw the Tathgatama Phij, Ja with Macron Na with Macron Pib on the terrace of enlightenment, sitting on the lion's seat under the Bodhi tree. He was respectfully surrounded by humans and such non-humans as Devas, Nga kings, Gandharvas, Kinnara and Mauragas. They also saw the 16 princes requesting the Buddha to turn the wheel of the Dharma. Then the great Brahmas bowed until their foreheads touched the Buddha's feet and then circled around him 100,000 times. They scattered heavenly oas on the Buddha, and the oas they scattered were piled as high as Mount Sumayu. They also paid homage to the Buddha's Bodhi tree, which was 10 yojanas in height. Having reverently offered him oas, they presented their palaces to the Buddha, saying, "Please accept the palaces we now offer you, and benay us through your compassion." Then the great Brahmas spoke these verses wholeheartedly and in unison before the Buddha. The Bhagavat, who is truly extraordinary, is extremely difficult to meet. He is endowed with immeasurable qualities and seeks to protect all. The great teacher of devas and humans. 118. 23b. Chapter 7. 119. Feels compassion for the world and causes all sentient beings in the 10 directions to be universally benefited. All of us, who have come from 500s of myriads of kois of worlds, have given up the pleasure of deep meditation in order to pay homage to the Buddha. To the Bhagavat we now present our palaces, which the merits of our previous lives have caused to be completely adorned. Please accept them through your compassion. Thereupon, having praised the Buddha in verse, the great Brahmas each said this: "O Bhagavat, we entreat you to turn the wheel of the Dharma, open the path to nirvana, and guide sentient beings to it." Then the great Brahmas attentively spoke these verses in unison. "O hero of the world, the most honored among two-legged beings, we entreat you to expound the Dharma and bring the suffering beings to the path through the power of your great compassion." Then the Tathgatama Phij silently consented. Furthermore, O monks, the great Brahmas in the V100 myriads of kois of worlds in the southeast saw their palaces illuminated with a ray of light that had never occurred before. Joyful and ecstatic, they were struck with wonder. They assembled to discuss this matter. At that time there was a great Brahma called Adhemtrakruka. He spoke to the assembly of Brahmas in verse saying, "What is the reason that this phenomenon has appeared?" The Lotus Sutra. Even since the olden times, this illumination of all of our palaces is without precedent. Has a Deva of great merit been born? Or has a Buddha appeared in the world? Since we have never seen such a phenomenon, we should seek thoroughly for its source. Even if we have to pass through thousands of myriads of kois of worlds, we should seek together for the source of this light. Possibly a Buddha has appeared in the world. to save suffering sentient beings. Thereupon the 100 myriads of kois of great Brahmas went toward the northwest with their palaces, carrying heavenly oas in their robes, to enquire about this phenomenon. They saw the Tathgatamakij Jnpib on the terrace of enlightenment, sitting on the lion's seat under the Bodhi tree. He was respectfully surrounded by humans and such non-who mans as Deva-s, Nga kings, Gandharva-s, Kinara-s, and Mauraga-s. They also saw the 16 princes requesting the Buddha to turn the wheel of the Dharma. Then all the Brahmas bowed until their foreheads touched the Buddha's feet and then circled around him 100,000 times. They scattered heavenly oas on the Buddha, and the oas they scattered were piled up as high as Mount Sumayu. They also paid homage to the Buddha's Bodhi tree. Having reverently offered the Buddha oas, they presented their palaces to him, saying, "Please accept the palaces we now offer you and benay us through your compassion." Then the great Brahmas spoke these verses wholeheartedly and in unison before the Buddha. O great sage, Deva of Devas! We now bow to the one whose voice is as beautiful as the Kalavaka birds. 120. 23c. Chapter 7. And who has compassion for sentient beings. The Bhagavat is truly extraordinary, and can only be seen once in an extremely long time. 180 kalpas have passed away fruitlessly, and no Buddhas have appeared during this time. The worlds have been LLED, with people in the three troubled states of being, and the Devas have decreased. The Buddha has now appeared in the world to be the eyes of sentient beings. He will be the refuge of the world, and will seek to protect all. As the father of sentient beings, he is the compassionate benefactor. Because of our past merits, we now have the good fortune to be able to meet the Bhagavat. Thereupon, having praised the Buddha in verse, the great Brahmas said, "This, O Bhagavat, we entreat you to turn the wheel of the Dharma out of your compassion for all and save sentient beings." Then the great Brahmas spoke these verses wholeheartedly and in unison. O great sage! Make us very happy. Turn the wheel of the Dharma. Reveal the character of all Dharmas. Save the suffering beings. If sentient beings hear this Dharma, they will attain the path and be born as Devas. The beings in the troubled states of being will decrease, while those who persevere in the good will increase. 121. 24. The Lotus Sutra. Then the Tathgatamakij silently consented. Furthermore, O monks, the great Brahmas in the VE hundreds of thou sons of kois of lands in the south each saw their palaces illuminated as they had never been before. Joyful and ecstatic, they were struck with wonder. They immediately assembled to discuss this matter together, asking, "Why have our palaces been illuminated?" At that time there was a great Brahma, called Sudharma. He spoke to the assembly of Brahmas in verse saying, "Our palaces are illuminated with brilliant light. There must be a reason for this, and we should seek its source. We have not seen such a phenomenon during the past hundreds of thousands of kalpas. Has a Deva of great merit been born? Or has a Buddha appeared in the world?" Thereupon the 100 myriads of kois of great Brahmas went toward the north with their palaces, to enquire about this phenomenon, carrying heavenly oars in their robes. They saw the Tathgatamakij Jnpib on the terrace of enlightenment, sitting on the lion's seat under the Bodhi tree. He was respectfully surrounded by humans and such non-who mans as Deva-s, Nga kings, Gandharva-s, Kinara-s, and Mauraga-s. They also saw the 16 princes requesting the Buddha to turn the wheel of the Dharma. Then all the great Brahmas bowed until their foreheads touched the Buddha's feet and then circled around him 100,000 times. They scattered heavenly oars on the Buddha, and the oars they scattered piled up as high as Mount Sumayu. They also paid homage to the Buddha's Bodhi tree. Having revered the Buddha with oars, they offered their palaces to him, saying, "Please accept the palaces we now offer you, and benay us through your compassion." 122. Chapter 7. Then the great Brahmas spoke these verses wholeheartedly and in unison before the Buddha. O destroyer of afflictions! It is extremely difficult to meet a Bhagavat. We are now meeting the Buddha for the RST time. Since 130 kalpas have passed away. Please satisfy sentient beings who are suffering from hunger and thirst by pouring down the rain of the Dharma. O one possessed of immeasurable wisdom, whom we have never met before. Today we have encountered the one who appears as rarely as the Uambara Oa blooms. Our palaces are beautifully adorned by this ray of light. We entreat you to accept them out of your great compassion. Thereupon, having praised the Buddha in verse, the great Brahmas said, "This, O Bhagavat, we request that you turn the wheel of the Dharma, thus causing the Devamras, Brahmas, Aramas, and Brahmins to be at ease and saving them all." Then the great Brahmas spoke these verses wholeheartedly and in unison. We entreat you, O best of devas and humans, to turn the wheel of the highest Dharma. Beat the drum of the great Dharma. Blow the conch of the great Dharma. Rain the rain of the great Dharma everywhere. And save incalculable sentient beings. We have all come to request. 123. 24b. The Lotus Sutra. That you expound it with your profound voice. Then the Tathgatamakij silently consented. The very same thing happened in the worlds from the southwestern to the lower regions, as well as those in other directions. Then all the great Brahmas in the V100 myriads of kois of lands in the upper region saw their palaces illuminated with a light that had never existed before. Joyful and ecstatic, they were struck with wonder. They immediately assembled to discuss this matter together, asking, "Why have our palaces been illuminated?" There was a great Brahma in that assembly called Sikhin. He spoke to the assembly of Brahmas in verse, saying, "Why have all our palaces been brilliantly illuminated with this light of virtuous dignity, and adorned in this unprecedented way? We have never seen such a wonderful phenomenon. Has a Deva of great merit been born? Or has a Buddha appeared in the world?" Thereupon V100 myriads of kois of great Brahmas went into the lower regions with their palaces to enquire about this phenomenon, carrying heavenly oars in their robes. They saw the Tathgatamakij Jnpib on the terrace of enlightenment sitting on the lion's seat under the Bodhi tree. He was respectfully surrounded by humans and such non-who mans as Deva-s, Nga kings, Gandharva S, Kinara S, and Mauraga S. They also saw the 16 princes requesting the Buddha to turn the wheel of the Dharma. Then all the great Brahmas bowed until their foreheads touched the Buddha's feet and then circumambulated him 100,000 times. They scattered heavenly owers on the Buddha, and the owers they scattered were piled up as high as Mount Sumayu. They also paid homage to the Buddha's Bodhi tree. Having reverently offered him owers, they presented their palaces to the Buddha saying, 124. Chapter 7. Please accept the palaces we now offer you, and benay us through your compassion. Then all the great Brahmas spoke these verses wholeheartedly and in unison before the Buddha. How splendid it is to meet the Buddhas, the great sages who deliver the world, who diligently work to get sentient beings out of the hell of the triple world, the best of devas and humans, who has universal wisdom, out of compassion for everyone, opens the gate to immortality, and extensively saves all. Since olden times, immeasurable kalpas have passed away in vain, without the presence of the Buddha. In the time before the Bhagavat appears, the 10 directions are in constant darkness. Those in the 3 troubled states of being increase, and the asuras also ourish. The devas decrease all the more, and when they die, many of them fall into those troubled states, having never heard the teaching from the Buddha. All of them always behave badly, and their physical power and wisdom decreases because of their erring deeds. They lose happiness or any notion of it, abiding in the teaching of false views. They know nothing of good conduct. Deprived of the Buddha's inspiration, they always fall into the troubled states of being. After a very long time, the Buddha has now appeared as the eye of the world. 125. 24c. The Lotus Sutra. It is out of compassion for sentient beings that the Buddha appears in the world. Transcending everything, the Buddha has attained complete enlightenment. We are all extremely happy, and all the other beings joyfully acclaim this unprecedented experience. All our palaces are beautifully adorned by this ray of light. We now offer them to the Bhagavat. Please accept them out of your compassion. By the universal transference of this merit, may we and all other beings together attain the Buddha path. Thereupon the 100 myriads of kois of great Brahmas, having praised the Buddha in verse, each spoke to him, saying, O Bhagavat, we strongly entreat you to turn the wheel of the Dharma. Give ease to many, and enable them to attain the path. Then all the great Brahmas spoke these verses. O Bhagavat, turn the wheel of the Dharma. Beat the drum of the Dharma of immortality. Save the suffering sentient beings, and reveal the path to nirvana. We strongly entreat you to accept our request, and out of your compassion, and with your wonderful voice, expound the Dharma that you have perfected over immeasurable kalpas. And then the Tathgatama acceded to the request made by all the great Brahmas from the 10 directions and the 16 princes. He then immediately turned 3 times the Dharma wheel of 12 spokes. 126. 25. Chapter 7. That no Armas, Brahmins, Devamras, Brahmas, or any other being in the world could turn. He taught. This is suffering. This is the origination of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering, and this is the path that leads to the cessation of suffering, i.e., the Four Noble Truths. He also extensively taught the Dharma of the 12-linked chain of dependent origination, saying, conditioned states are dependent on ignorance. Consciousness is dependent on conditioned states. Name and form are dependent on consciousness. The 6 sense elds are dependent on name and form. Contact is dependent on the 6 sense elds. Feelings are dependent on contact. Craving is dependent on feelings. Grasping is dependent on craving. Becoming is dependent on grasping. Birth is dependent on becoming. And old age, illness, death, anxiety, sorrow, suffering, and distress are dependent on birth. When ignorance ceases, then conditioned states cease. When conditioned states cease, then consciousness ceases. When consciousness ceases, then name and form cease. When name and form cease, then the 6 sense elds cease. When the 6 sense elds cease, then contact ceases. When contact ceases, then feelings cease. When feelings cease, then craving ceases. When craving ceases, then grasping ceases. When grasping ceases, then becoming ceases. When becoming ceases, then birth ceases. When birth ceases, then old age, illness, death, anxiety, sorrow, suffering, and distress cease. When the Buddha explained this Dharma to the great assembly of the devas and humans, at that time 600 myriads of kois of naotas of people, because they were not attached to any existent thing, became free of all corruption. All of them perfected profound meditations, the 3 sciences, the 6 transcendent powers, and were endowed with the 8 liberations. When he taught the Dharma for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th time, thousands of myriads of kois of naotas of sentient beings, equal to the sons of the Ganges River, who were not attached to any existent thing, became free of all corruption. Innumerable, immeasurable, incalculable avakas followed in their turn. 127. The Lotus Sutra. At that time the 16 princes who were still young renounced household life and became Aramaras. All their faculties were sharp, and their wisdom was penetrating. They had paid homage to hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of Buddhas, practiced the pure path of discipline and integrity, and sought highest, complete enlightenment. They all spoke to the Buddha, saying, O Bhagavat! All of these immeasurable thousands of myriads of kois of avakas of great merit have all attained perfection. O Bhagavat! You should also expound the teaching of highest, complete enlightenment to us. Hearing it, we shall all practice it. O Bhagavat! We aspire for the wisdom and insight of the Tathagata. The Buddha himself knows what is deep in our minds. At that time 8 myriads of kois of people in the assembly who served the noble emperor saw the 16 princes renounce household life and appealed to the emperor to allow their own renunciation. The emperor immediately gave his permission. Then the Buddha accepted the request of the Aramaras. After 20,000 kalpas had passed, he taught to the fourfold assembly this Mahayana Sutra called the Lotus Sutra, the instruction for Bodhisattvas and treasured law of the Buddhas. After the Buddha taught this sutra, all the 16 Aramairas preserved, recited, and understood it in order to achieve highest, complete enlightenment. When the Buddha taught this sutra, all the 16 Aramairas, the Bodhisattvas, completely accepted it. There were also some among the A with Macron Vakas who believed it. But all the other thousands of myriads of kois of sentient beings became confused. The Buddha continuously taught this sutra for 8,000 kalpas without stopping. After teaching this sutra, he immediately entered a quiet place and abided in meditation for 84,000 kalpas. At that time each of the 16 Aramairas, the Bodhisattvas, knowing that the Buddha had entered the quiet place and was abiding tranquilly in meditation, ascended the Dharma seat and extensively taught and explained the Lotus Sutra to the fourfold assembly for 84,000 kalpas. Each of them saved 600 myriads of kois of naotas of sentient beings. 128. 25b. Chapter 7. Equal in number to the sons of the Ganges River. By revealing and teaching it, they gladdened these sentient beings and awoke in them the thought of highest, complete enlightenment. Having arisen from Samai after 84,000 kalpas had passed, the Buddha Mabhijjhanpib approached the Dharma seat and sat down with complete mindfulness. He addressed everyone in the great assembly, saying, "These 16 Aramairas, Bodhisattvas, are extraordinary. All their faculties are sharp and their wisdom is penetrating. In times past they have paid homage to immeasurable thousands of myriads of kois of Buddhas and have constantly practiced the pure path of discipline and integrity under them. They preserved the wisdom of the Buddhas and revealed it to sentient beings, causing them to enter into it. All of you should approach and pay them homage again and again. Why is this? If there are any Avakas, Pratyekabuddhas, and Bodhisattvas who are able to believe and preserve the teaching in this sutra expounded by these 16 Bodhisattvas and not disparage it, they will all attain the wisdom of the Tathagata, highest, complete enlightenment." The Buddha addressed the monks, saying, "These 16 Bodhisattvas always willingly taught this Lotus Sutra. Each Bodhisattva has inspired 600 myriads of kois of naotas of sentient beings equal in number to the sons of the Ganges River. In life after life, they remained with these Bodhisattvas and, hearing this teaching from them, they believed and understood. For this reason they were able to meet 4 myriads of kois of Buddha Bhagavats during a period uninterrupted up to the present. O monks! I shall now tell you that these 16 Aramairas, disciples of that Buddha Mabhijjhanpib, have now attained highest, complete enlightenment and presently teach the Dharma in the lands of the 10 directions. There are immeasurable hundreds of thousands of myriads of Bodhisattvas and Avakas who have become their attendants. 2 of these Aramairas have become Buddhas in the east. One is called Akoibhaya in the land called Apirati and the other is called Meruka. In the southeast there are 2 Buddhas. One is called Saihajo and the other is called Saihadvaja. In the south there are 2 Buddhas called 129. The Lotus Sutra. Kapratyata and Natyaparinirvta. There are also 2 Buddhas in the southwest. One is called Indradvaja and the other is called Brahmadvaja. In the West there are two Buddhas called Amitayas and Sarvalaka Dha with Makronti. Padravodvaga Pratyuttara. There are two Buddhas in the Northwest. One is called Tamla Patre Kandanagandbhija. The other is called Meru Kalpa. In the North there are two Buddhas. One is called Mahasvaradpa and the other is called Mahasvara Aja. In the Northeast there is a Buddha called Sava Lokabhayakshamai Tattva Vivazanakara. And the 16th one is myself, Buddha Kyamuni, who in this Sa world achieved highest, complete enlightenment. O monks! When we were Aramayas, each of us inspired immeasure able hundreds of thousands of myriads of kois of sentient beings equal in number to the sands of the Ganges river. Those sentient beings who heard the teaching from me attained highest, complete enlightenment. There are sentient beings who still abide in the stage of Aravaka and whom I will inspire to attain highest, complete enlightenment. By means of this teaching, they will gradually enter the Buddha path. Why is this? The wisdom of the Tathagatas is hard to believe and hard to understand. Those incalculable sentient beings equal in number to the sands of the Ganges river who were inspired at that time were you, O monks, and those disciples who will be Avakas in the future after my parinirva. After my parinirva there will be disciples who will not hear this sutra and will neither know nor understand the Bodhisattva practice, yet through the merit they have acquired, the thought of extinction will awake in them and they will enter parinirva. I will become a Buddha in another land with a different name. Although the idea of extinction has awoken in these disciples and they have entered parinirva, in that land they will still seek the wisdom of the Buddhas and will then be able to hear this sutra. They can obtain parinirva only through the Buddha vehicle. There are no other vehicles except the one taught through the skillful means of the Tathagatas. O monks! When the Tathagata realizes that the time of his parinirva is approaching, knowing that the assembly is pure, RM in belief and understanding, has penetrated the teaching of emptiness, and has deeply entered meditation, he will then gather the assembly of Bodhisattvas and Avakas. 130. 25c. Chapter 7. Together and teach this sutra to them. In this world there is no second vehicle through which one can attain parinirva, only through the single Buddha vehicle can one attain it. You should know, O monks, that the Tathagata through skillful means deeply penetrates the dispositions of sentient beings. Knowing their inclination toward the inferior teachings and that they are deeply attached to the desires of the VE senses, he teaches nirvana for their sake. If they listen, they will accept it. Suppose in a desolate, fearful place there were a dangerous road VE 100 yojanas long. There is a large group that wants to travel along this road to reach a place where there is great treasure. They have a leader who is wise and penetrating and who knows the passable and impassable parts of this dangerous road very well. Although he wants to guide these people past the danger, they become exhausted along the way. Addressing the leader they say, "We are extremely tired and frightened. We cannot go any further. We are still far away from our destination, and we want to turn back." The leader, knowing many skillful means, thinks, "These people are to be pitied. How could they want to turn back and abandon the great treasure. After thinking this, the leader, through his skillful means, magically creates a city 300 yojanas away along the dangerous road. He addresses the people, saying, "Do not be frightened. Do not turn back. You may now stay in this great city and be at your leisure. If you enter this city, you can be comfortable and at ease. Once you are able to go on and reach the treasure site, then you can depart once more." Then the exhausted people rejoice greatly and praise this unprecedented experience, saying, "We are now free of this evil road and will be comfortable and at ease." Then they proceed to the apparitional city and enter it. They believe that their hardships are over and feel at ease. Then the leader realizes that 131. 26. The Lotus Sutra. They are rested and their fatigue has gone. He immediately makes the apparitional city vanish and says to the people, "All of you, come along. The treasure site is near. I made that great apparitional city only in order to let you rest. O monks! The Tathagata is exactly like this. Now for your sake he has become a great leader who knows the long, dangerous, and evil road of birth, death, and desires confusion. You should leave it and be saved. If sentient beings hear only about the single Buddha vehicle, they will then want neither to see nor approach a Buddha. They will think that the Buddha path is long and attainable only after enduring severe and protracted suffering. The Buddha, knowing their minds, knowing that they are weak-willed and of lowly aspiration, teaches them the two nirvanas through skillful means, in order to let them rest halfway to the goal. If there are sentient beings who abide in either of these two stages, the Tathagata immediately teaches, "What you have accomplished is not complete. The stage you abide in is close to the wisdom of the Buddhas. You should observe and consider that the nirvana you have obtained is not the true one. It is only through the power of the Tathagata's skillful means that the single Buddha vehicle is explained as three. The Buddha is just like that leader who conjured a great apparitional city to let the people rest. Knowing that they were rested, he addressed them, saying, 'The treasure site is near. This city is not real. It is only my invention.' Thereupon the Bhagavat, wanting to elaborate on the meaning of this, further spoke these verses. The Buddha Mabhijnpib sat on the terrace of enlightenment for 10 kalpas. But still the Dharma of the Buddhas did not appear to him, and he did not attain the Buddha path. The Devas, Nga kings, Asuras, and others constantly rained down heavenly owers in order to pay homage to that Buddha. 132. Chapter 7. The Devas beat heavenly drums and played various kinds of music. The fragrant winds blew the withered owers away, and then they rained down fresh, beautiful ones. After 10 intermediate kalpas had passed, he then attained the Buddha path, and all the Devas and humans became joyful and ecstatic. The 16 princes of that Buddha, surrounded by thousands of myriads of kois of attendants, came to the place where the Buddha was. Having bowed until their foreheads touched his feet, they requested him to turn the wheel of the Dharma, saying, "O noble lion, fill us and everyone else with the rain of the Dharma. It is extremely difficult to meet a Bhagavat, since he appears only once in a very long time. to get the attention of the beings. The Buddha shook the entire world. The palaces of the Brahmas in the V100, myriads of kois of lands in the east, were illuminated as never before. All of the Brahmas, seeing this phenomenon, came to the place where the Buddha was. They reverently scattered owers and offered him their palaces, requesting the Buddha to turn the wheel of the Dharma. They praised him in verse. The Buddha knew that the right time had not yet arrived, and although he had been asked 133. 26b. The Lotus Sutra, he sat in silence. The other three directions, the four remaining quarters, and the upper and lower regions were all like this. All the Brahmas scattered owers, offered their palaces, and requested the Buddha to turn the wheel of the Dharma, saying, "It is extremely difficult to meet a Bhagavat. We entreat you to open wide the gate to immortality, and turn the wheel of the highest Dharma. Through your great compassion." The Bhagavat, having immeasurable wisdom, accepted their request, and expounded various teachings, such as the Four Noble Truths, and the 12-linked chain of dependent origination, saying, beginning with ignorance, and ending with old age and death, all these derive from birth. You should know about such miseries. When the Buddha expounded this teaching, 600 myriads of kois of trillions of people attained the complete extinction of all suffering, and became arhats. At the time of the second teaching, thousands of myriads of people, equal in number to the sands of the Ganges River, unattached to any existent thing, also attained arhatship. After that an incalculable number of beings attained the path. Even if one were to count 4 myriads of kois of kalpas. 134. 26c. Chapter 7. One could not finish counting their number. Then the 16 princes renounced household life and became Aramaras. They all asked the Buddha to expound the teaching of the Mahayana, saying, "Let us and all of our attendants attain the Buddha path. We entreat you to let us obtain the Bhagavat's eye of wisdom, supreme in purity." The Buddha, knowing the minds of his children and their past conduct, taught the 6 perfections and various transcendent powers through incalculably numerous explanations and various illustrations, explaining the true teaching and the path to be practiced by the Bodhisattvas. He taught this Lotus Sutra in verses equal in number to the sands of the Ganges River. After the Buddha taught this sutra, he entered meditation in a quiet place, and sat with complete concentration in the same spot for 84,000 kalpas. Those Aramaras, knowing that the Buddha had not arisen from meditation, taught the highest wisdom of the Buddhas to immeasurable kois of beings. Each sat on the Dharma seat and explained this Mahayana Sutra. After the great parinirvana of that Buddha, they propagated the Dharma and inspired others. Each Aramara saved 600 myriads of kois of sentient beings, equal in number to the sands of the Ganges River. Those who heard the teaching. 135. The Lotus Sutra, after the Buddha's parinirvana, were always born together with their teachers in various other Buddha lands. These 16 Aramaras completely cultivated the Buddha path, and now, in the 10 directions, they have attained highest complete enlightenment. Then those who heard the Dharma, in the presence of each of these Buddhas, and those who are in the Aveka stage, will gradually be taught the Buddha path. I am one of the 16. I have also taught you in the past. Therefore, through skillful means, I will now also lead you to the goal, which is the wisdom of the Buddhas. Through these former causes and conditions, I will now teach the Lotus Sutra, in order to let you enter the Buddha path. Do not be worried or frightened. Suppose there were a dangerous road, in a deserted wasteland far away, where there are many harmful beasts. There is neither water nor grass. It is a fearful place for human beings. Innumerable thousands of myriads of beings wish to pass along this dangerous way. But that road is very long, some 100 yojanas. Then there is a leader, endowed with deep wisdom and knowledge, discerning and resolute, who saves the people from various calamities. When they meet with danger, the people all get tired. 136. 27. Chapter 7. And address the leader, saying, we are all now totally exhausted. We want to turn back from here. The leader thinks, these people are really to be pitied. How could they possibly want to return and lose the great treasure? He immediately thinks of skillful means, and how he should now use his transcendent powers. And he makes a great apparitional city, with houses adorned and surrounded, with gardens, moats, and ponds. There are 40 gates and tall towers, and it is full of men and women. When the apparition is complete, he immediately consoles the people, saying, do not be afraid. When you enter the city, you can each do as you please. All the people enter the city. They are very happy and feel at ease, thinking they have been saved. When the leader knows they are rested, he gathers them together and addresses them, saying, you should now proceed. For this is just an apparitional city. Seeing that you were extremely fatigued, and that you wanted to turn back, after coming halfway, I made this apparitional city through skillful means. You should now strive to reach the treasure site together. 137. 25c. The Lotus Sutra. I am exactly like this. I am the leader of all. Perceiving that those seeking the way have become timid, have stopped halfway, and are unable to walk to the end of the dangerous road of birth, death, and desire's confusion, I use skillful means and teach nirvana, so that they may rest, saying, you have extinguished suffering, and you have completed what must be done. Knowing that they have reached nirvana, and attained arhatship, the Buddha immediately gathers the great assembly together, and teaches the true Dharma. All the Buddhas explain and teach the three vehicles through skillful means. Although there is only the single Buddha vehicle, they teach two in order to provide a place of rest. For your Binay, I now teach the truth. What you have attained is not the ultimate goal. You must call forth great efforts in order to obtain the omniscience of a Buddha. If you attain omniscience and the qualities of the Buddha, such things as the 10 powers, and become endowed with the 32 marks, then you will have attained the ultimate goal. The Buddhas, the leaders, teach nirvana in order to let beings rest in comfort. When they know that they have rested, they lead them to the wisdom of the Buddhas. 138. 27b. 139. Chapter 8. The 500 disciples receive their predictions. At that time, Pra, the son of Maitreya, after hearing the Buddha teach the Dharma according to what is appropriate to sentient beings through the wisdom of skillful means and bestow the prediction of highest, complete enlightenment on all the great disciples, and then hearing stories about past causes and conditions and that all the Buddhas have obtained perfect mastery of transcendent powers, obtained an unprecedented experience and became pure in mind and joyful. He immediately rose from his seat, went into the presence of the Buddha, bowed until his forehead touched the Buddha's feet, and then stood to one side gazing unwaveringly at the Buddha, and thought this: the Bhagavat is truly marvelous. His actions are rare. He teaches the Dharma according to the natural capacities of the beings in the world. Through skillful means, wisdom, and insight, he leads sentient beings away from their various attachments. We have no words to describe the Buddha's qualities. Only the Buddha, the Bhagavat, is able to know our deep intentions and original vow. Then the Buddha addressed the monks, saying, "Do you see Pra, the son of Maitreya? I always praise him as the foremost among the teachers of the Dharma. I also always praise his various qualities. He diligently maintains and propagates my teaching and is able to gladden and benay the four-fold assembly. He interprets the true Dharma of the Buddhas perfectly and greatly benets those who practice the pure path of discipline and integrity together with him. With the exception of the Tathagata, no one else explains the doctrine more eloquently. You must not think that Pra is only now able to protect and propagate my teaching. He also protected and propagated the true Dharma of the Buddhas in the presence of 90 kois of Buddhas in the past when he was 27c. 140. The Lotus Sutra. Always the foremost among the teachers of the Dharma. Moreover, he was completely versed in the teaching of emptiness that the Buddhas taught, and attained the fourfold unobstructed wisdom. He has always been able to teach the Dharma clearly and purely. He never had any doubts and was endowed with the transcendent powers of the Bodhisattvas. Throughout each life he always practiced the pure path of discipline and integrity. The people who lived in the same Buddha world all thought he really was a Ravaka, yet probeneted immeasurable hundreds of thousands of sentient beings through this skillful means and also led and inspired immeasurable incalculable numbers of beings and caused them to attain highest, complete enlightenment. In order to purify the Buddha land he always did what the Buddhas have done and led and inspired sentient beings. O monks! Pra also was able to become the foremost among the teachers of the Dharma under the past 7 Buddhas, and he is also the foremost of those who preach the Dharma under me. He will also be the foremost among the teachers of the Dharma under the future Buddhas in this Kalpa. He will protect and propagate the Buddha Dharma, and also in the future he will protect and propagate the Dharma of incalculable limitless Buddhas. He will lead, inspire, and benay incalculable sentient beings, and cause them to attain highest, complete enlightenment. In order to purify the Buddha lands he will always be diligent and persevering, leading and inspiring sentient beings. He will gradually perfect the Bodhisattva path and, after immeasurable incalculable kalpa s, he will attain highest, complete enlightenment in this land. He will be called Dharmaprabsa, Atathgate, Arat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans. Buddha, Bhagavat. That Buddha's land will consist of all the worlds in the great manifold cosmos, equal in number to the sands of the Ganges river. The earth will be made of the 7 treasures and it will be level, just like the palm of one's hand. There will be no mountains, valleys, or hollow places. This land will be LED with towers of the 7 treasures. The heavenly palaces will be in the sky close at hand, and the humans and devas will come and go between them, so that they will be able to see each other. There will be no troubled states of being nor any women. All the sentient beings will. 141. Chapter 8. Be born here spontaneously, without any sexual desires. They will attain great transcendent powers, emit rays of light from their bodies, and fly freely through the air. These beings will be RM in recollection, persevering, and wise. They will all be of golden hue and adorned with the 32 marks. The sentient beings in that land will always eat 2 meals, one being the meal of delight in the Dharma, and the other the meal of pleasure in meditation. There will be immeasurable incalculable thousands of myriads of kois, of nayatas of bodhisattvas who have attained great transcendent powers and the 4-fold unobstructed wisdom. They will be able skillfully to lead and inspire sentient beings. The number of avakas there will be impossible to calculate. They will all perfect the 6 transcendent powers, the 3 sciences, and the 8 liberations. Such will be the immeasurable merits of this Buddha's land, being perfect in adornment. The Kalpa will be called Ratanvabsa and his land will be called Suvisuddha. This Buddha's lifespan will last for immeasurable, incalculable kalpas, and the Dharma will abide for a very long time. After the parinirvana of that Buddha, stupas of the 7 treasures will be erected everywhere throughout the land. Then the Bhagavat, wanting to elaborate on the meaning of this further, spoke these verses. O monks! Listen carefully. The path that the heir of the Buddhas has practiced by learning skillful means cannot be conceived, because the bodhisattvas know that sentient beings long for inferior teachings and are afraid of great knowledge. They make themselves either avakas or pratyekabuddhas. They inspire those sentient beings using innumerable skillful means, saying, "We are avakas and still very far away from attaining the Buddha path." 28. 142. The Lotus Sutra. They save immeasurable sentient beings, all of whom they cause to attain perfection. And they even cause those who are lazy, or who have lowly intentions, gradually to become Buddhas. These beings secretly carry out the bodhisattva practice, while outwardly calling themselves avakas, having little desire. Their thoughts zood on birth and death. They in fact purify the Buddha lands. These bodhisattvas show sentient beings that they have the 3 poisons. And further they reveal the mark of false views. In this way my disciples save sentient beings through skillful means. If I fully disclosed that they had taken on various forms, The sentient beings hearing this would immediately become doubtful. This Pra has now practiced the path under thousands of kois of Buddhas in the past, and he has propagated and protected the teaching of these Buddhas, seeking the highest wisdom under all these Buddhas. He showed that he was the foremost among the disciples, and that he was knowledgeable and wise, fearless in his teaching. He was able to gladden the people. He never tired in performing the actions of a Buddha. He has already attained the great transcendent powers, and is endowed with the fourfold unobstructed wisdom, knowing whether the faculties 28b. 143. Chapter 8. Of sentient beings are sharp or dull. He always teaches the pure Dharma, expounding such doctrines as these. He has taught thousands of kois of beings, and, by making them abide in the Mahayana teaching, he himself has purified his Buddha land. In the future he will also pay homage to incalculable innumerable Buddhas, protect and propagate the true Dharma, and also purify his Buddha land. He will always fearlessly teach the Dharma, using his skillful means, save incalculable sentient beings, and enable them to achieve omniscience, paying homage to all the Tathagatas, and preserving the treasure house of the Dharma. He will eventually become the Buddha, called Dharmaprabsa. His land will be called Suvisuddha, which will consist of the 7 treasures. His kalpa will be called Ratanvabsa. There will be a large number of bodhisattvas there, numbering immeasurable kois. His Buddha land will be Lled, with bodhisattvas who have attained great transcendent powers, and are endowed with dignity. There will also be innumerable avakas, who have perfected the 3 sciences, the 8 liberations, and the fourfold unobstructed wisdom. Such beings as these will form the Sangha. The sentient beings in his land will have already cut themselves off from sexual desires. Everyone there will thus be pure and born spontaneously. 144. The Lotus Sutra. With bodies adorned with the 32 marks, they will feast on delight in the Dharma, and pleasure in meditation, never thinking of eating anything else. There will be neither women, nor troubled states of existence. The qualities of the monk Pra will be completely perfected, and there will be many wise people in this pure land. I am now only explaining these immeasurable things. Thereupon there were 1200 arhats, who had attained complete mental discipline, who thought this: we have joyfully attained an unprecedented experience. If the Bhagavat would give each of us a prediction like those he has given the other great disciples, we would be overjoyed. The Buddha, knowing their minds, addressed Makyapa, saying, I shall now bestow the prediction of highest, complete enlightenment one by one on these 1200 arhats who are in my presence. My great disciple, the monk Jtaikorinya, who is in this assembly, will pay homage to 62,000 of kois of Buddhas. He will thereafter become the Buddha called Samantaprabha, a Tathagata, Arhat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans, Buddha, Bhagavat. The V100 arhats beginning with Uruvilvakyapa, Gakyapa, Nadkyapa, Claudian, Urdian, Aniruddha, Revata, Kapia, Bakula, Kunda, Svagate, and the others will all attain highest, complete enlightenment. They will all have the same name, that of Samantaprabha. Then the Bhagavat, wanting to elaborate the meaning of this further, spoke these verses. The monk Kauinya will meet immeasurable Buddhas, and, after incalculable kalpas have passed. 28 c. 145. Chapter 8. He will attain perfect enlightenment. He will always emit a great ray of light, and will be endowed with transcendent powers. His fame will spread universally throughout the 10 directions. He will be honored by all beings, and will always teach the highest path. He will therefore be called Samantaprabha. His land will be pure, and the bodhisattvas there will all be of great vigor. They will all ascend marvelous towers, and roam in the lands of the 10 directions. They will present the most excellent offerings to all of the Buddhas. After having shown their reverence in this way, they will be full of great joy, and immediately return to their own lands. Such will be their transcendent powers. The lifespan of this Buddha will be 60,000 kalpas, and the true Dharma will last twice as long as his lifespan. The semblance Dharma will last twice as long as this. When the Dharma disappears, the devas and humans will grieve. Those 100 monks will become Buddhas each in their turn, all having the same name Samantaprabha. They will give predictions, one after the other, saying, after my parinirvana, so and so will become a Buddha. The world he inspires. 146. The Lotus Sutra will be exactly like mine today. The embellishments of their lands, all the transcendent powers, the assembly of bodhisattvas and of akas, the true and semblance Dharma, the lifespan and duration of the kalpa, will be just as I explained before. O Kyapa, you now know that the 100 arhats, whose minds are free, and the remaining of akas, will also be exactly like this. You should teach those who are not in this assembly. Thereupon the 100 arhats, having obtained their predictions from the Buddha, were joyful and ecstatic. They rose from their seats, approached the Buddha, bowed until their foreheads touched his feet, repented of their faults, and reproached themselves, saying, O Bhagavat, we have always thought we had attained complete nirvana. We now realize that we were ignorant. Why is this? We should have attained the wisdom of the Tathagatas. Yet we were satisfied with little wisdom. O Bhagavat, suppose there were a man who came to the house of a close friend and went to sleep after becoming intoxicated with wine. The intimate friend, having to go out on official business, sews a priceless jewel into the inside of his friend's garment and, giving it to him, leaves. But the man who was drunk and asleep is totally unaware of this. After getting up, he leaves and roams around until he arrives in another country. Although he diligently seeks for food and clothing, they are very difficult to obtain. He is satisfied if he just obtains a very meager amount. Later on, the intimate friend happens to meet this man. Seeing him, he says, "O poor fellow, how have you come to this state through lack of food and clothing? Once, on such and such a day in such and such a month and year, I sewed a priceless jewel into the inside of your garment." 29. 147. Chapter 8. Wanting to make things easier for you and to let you enjoy the desires of the VE senses as much as you wished. It is still there, although you aren't aware of it, and you seek your livelihood with great effort and hardship. You have been very foolish. Sell this jewel and use it to buy what you need. From now on you will know neither poverty nor want and can live as you wish. The Buddha is exactly like this. When he was a bodhisattva, he aroused in us the aspiration for omniscience. Nevertheless we forgot, we did not know or understand. We attained the path of the arhats and considered that we had attained nirvana. It was very hard for us to support ourselves and we were satisfied with little. But we never fully lost our wish for all knowledge. Now, the Bhagavat, perceiving our minds, has said this. O monks! What you have attained is not the complete nirvana. For a long time I have made you plant the various roots of good merit of a Buddha and shown you the marks of nirvana through skillful means. That is why you consider yourselves to have actually attained nirvana. O Bhagavat! We now know that we are actually bodhisattvas and will obtain a prediction of highest, complete enlightenment. For this reason we are extremely happy at having obtained such an unprecedented experience. At that time Chaitanya and the others, wanting to elaborate on the meaning of this further, spoke these verses. We have heard his voice, giving the prediction of utmost ease. Rejoicing in this unprecedented experience, we bow to the Buddha whose wisdom is immeasurable. We now repent of our faults in the presence of the Bhagavat. Although we had attained only a small measure of nirvana out of the immeasurable treasures of the Buddha, we were self-satisfied, just like ignorant fools. Suppose there were a poor man. 29b. 148. The Lotus Sutra. Who went to the house of a close friend, whose family was very wealthy. He was entertained with a feast, and had a priceless jewel sewn to the inside of his garment. The wealthy friend made him this gift, without saying anything, and went away. The poor man had fallen asleep, and did not know of this. Shortly afterward this man gets up, and after wandering around, arrives in another country. He manages to seek out enough food and clothing to live, but has great difficulty in supporting himself. Yet he is satisfied to obtain a little, and does not desire anything better. He is still unaware of the priceless jewel sewn inside his garment. The intimate friend who gave him the jewel meets this poor man later, and bitterly reproaches him, showing him the jewel that had been sewn into his garment. The poor man, seeing this jewel, rejoices greatly, and with this rich treasure he enjoys to his satisfaction the desires of the VE senses. We are exactly like this. For a long time, the Bhagavat has led and inspired us through his compassion, and planted in us the highest aspiration. Because we were ignorant, we neither noticed nor knew. We were satisfied with attaining. 149. Chapter 8. Only a small measure of nirvana, and did not seek for the rest. Now the Buddha has enlightened us, saying, this is not the real nirvana. Attaining the highest wisdom of the Buddhas is indeed the only real nirvana. Now, having heard the predictions from the Buddha, and of the adorned lands, and the subsequent predictions, we universally rejoice in body and mind. Chapter 9. The predictions for those who still have more to learn, and for those who do not. At that time Nanda and Rila thought this, the delight we would feel if we were to receive our predictions is constantly before our minds. Then arising from their seats and going into the presence of the Buddha, they bowed until their foreheads touched his feet, and spoke to him in unison, saying, O Bhagavat, we should also be qualified to receive our predictions. Both of us take refuge only in the Tathagata. Moreover we are well known by the Devas, humans, and Asuras throughout the entire world. Nanda has always attended the Tathagata, preserving the treasure house of the Dharma, and Rila is the son of the Buddha. If the Buddha would bestow upon us the prediction of highest, complete enlightenment, then our vows would be fulfilled and our wishes also realized. Then 2,000 disciples, of AKS, some who still had more to learn, and some who did not, all arose from their seats and with their right shoulders bared went into the presence of the Buddha. Attentively, with palms pressed together, they gazed at the Bhagavat, all having the same wish as Nanda and Rila, and stood to one side. Then the Buddha addressed Nanda, saying, in the future world you will become a Buddha called Sgara Dharabhaktivikritajbhija, a Tathagata, Arat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans, Buddha. Bhagavat. You will pay homage to 62 koyas of Buddhas, preserve the treasure house of the Dharma and ultimately attain highest, complete enlightenment. Further, you will inspire 20,000s of myriads of koyas of bodhisattvas, equal in number to the sands of the Ganges river, causing them to attain highest, complete enlightenment. Your land will be called a Vanmitavajayant. It will be pure and the earth will be made of lapis lazuli. The kalpa will be called Manojabd. 151. 29c. The Lotus Sutra. Pigajita. The lifespan of this Buddha will be for immeasurable, incalculable, thousands of myriads of koyas of kalpas. Their number would be incalculable even if one were to count for immeasurable, innumerable thousands of myriads of koyas of kalpas. The true Dharma will abide in the world twice as long as his lifespan, and the semblance Dharma will abide in the world twice as long as the true Dharma. O Nanda, the virtues of this Buddha's Garadhara Buddhi Vikrita Ajbhija will be praised by immeasurable thousands of myriads of koyas of Buddha Tathagatas in the 10 directions, equal in number to the sands of the Ganges river. Thereupon the Tathagata, wanting to elaborate on the meaning of this, further spoke these verses. I now tell the assembly that Nanda, the preserver of the Dharma, will pay homage to the Buddhas, and ultimately attain complete enlightenment. He will be called the Buddha. Sgaradhara Bhaktivikritajbhija. His land will be pure, and called a Vanmitavajayant. He will lead and inspire bodhisattvas, in numbers equal to the sands of the Ganges river. This Buddha will be endowed with great virtue and dignity, and his fame will the 10 directions. His lifespan will be immeasurable, due to his compassion for sentient beings. The true Dharma will abide twice as long as his lifespan, and the semblance Dharma will abide twice as long as the true Dharma. countless sentient beings within the Dharma of this Buddha, equal in number to the sands of the Ganges River, will plant the seed of the Buddha path. 152. Chapter 9. At that time the 8,000 Bodhisattvas in the assembly, in whom the thought of enlightenment, Bodhisattva, had recently awakened, all thought this, since we have never heard the great Bodhisattvas receive predictions like this, why should the Avakas now obtain it? Then the Bhagavat, knowing what the Bodhisattvas were thinking, spoke to them, saying, O sons of a virtuous family, the thought of highest, complete enlightenment once awoke simultaneously in Nanda and myself in the presence of the Buddha Dharma Garganpyugataja. Nanda always wanted to hear a great deal about the Dharma, and I always made diligent efforts. For this reason I was shortly able to attain highest, complete enlightenment, whereas Nanda preserves my teaching and in the future will uphold the treasure house of the Dharma of all the Buddhas. He will lead, inspire, and perfect the Bodhisattvas. Since this was his original vow, he has obtained this prediction. Nanda, while facing the Buddha in the audience, heard his own prediction and about the adornments of his land. His vow fulfilled, he rejoiced greatly at attaining such an unprecedented experience. With his unobstructed penetration he immediately remembered the treasure house of the Dharma of the past immeasurable thousands of myriads of kois of Buddhas as if he had just heard of it today, and he also became aware of his original vow. Thereupon Nanda spoke these verses. The Bhagavat is truly extraordinary. He has enabled me to recollect the Dharma of incalculable numbers of Buddhas of the past, just as if I had heard of the matter today. I now have no further doubts. I am established in the Buddha path. I have become an attendant of the Tathagata. And, as an attendant, I will preserve the Dharma of all the Buddhas, using skillful means. Then the Buddha addressed Rila, saying, in the future you will become a Buddha called Saptaratna Padmavikrama, a Tathagata, Arhat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas. 153. 30. The Lotus Sutra. And humans, Buddha, Bhagavat. You will pay homage to the Buddha Tathagatas, whose number is equal to that of the grains of dust in the 10 worlds. And you will always become the eldest son of all the Buddhas just as you are my eldest son now. The adornments of the land, the number of disciples led and inspired, the duration of the true and semblance Dharma of this Buddha Saptaratna Padmavikrama will be just like those of the Buddhas Garadhara Buddhi Vikritajbhija, without the slightest difference. You will also become the eldest son of this Buddha and after that attain highest, complete enlightenment. At that time the Bhagavat, wanting to elaborate on the meaning of this, further, spoke these verses. When I was a prince, Rila was my eldest son. And now that I have perfected the Buddha path, he accepts my teaching as the heir of the Dharma. In the future he will meet immeasurable kois of Buddhas. Becoming the eldest son of all these Buddhas, he will wholeheartedly seek the Buddha path. Only I am able to discern Rila's unseen practice. But now that he has become my eldest son, he reveals it to the sentient beings, his thousands of myriads. of choice of merits are uncountable and incalculable. He will become established in the Buddha Dharma and seek the highest path. Then the Bhagavat perceived that the minds of those 2,000 people, some of whom had more to learn and some of whom did not, were sincere, mild, and receptive. They were all attentively gazing at the Buddha. The Buddha said to Nanda, "Do you not see these 2,000 people? Some of whom have more to learn and some of whom do not." 154. 30b. Chapter 9. Nanda replied, "Yes, I see them." The Buddha said, "O Nanda, all of these people will pay homage to the Buddha Tathagatas, whose number is equal to that of the grains of dust in FTY worlds. They will respect, honor, and preserve the treasure house of the Dharma and will later all become Buddhas simultaneously in the worlds of the 10 directions. They will all have the same name, Ratnaketchaja, a Tathagata, Arhat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans, Buddha, Bhagavat. Their lifespans will last 1 kalpa. The adornments of their lands, the number of avakas and bodhisattvas, and the duration of the true and semblance Dharma will be the same for all." Thereupon the Bhagavat, wanting to elaborate on the meaning of this, further spoke these verses. "Now in my presence, these 2,000 avakas have all received their predictions. In the future they will all become Buddhas. The Buddhas they will revere will be equal to the number of grains of dust, just as mentioned above. Preserving this treasure house of the Dharma, they will later attain complete enlightenment. They will all have the same name, and dwell in the lands of the 10 directions, all sitting at the exact same time on the terrace of enlightenment. They will attain the highest wisdom. All of them will be called Ratnaketchaja. Their lands, the number of disciples, duration of the true and semblance Dharma, will all be the same without any difference. Moreover, through their transcendent powers, they will save sentient beings throughout the 10 directions." 155. 156. Their fame will spread universally, and they will gradually enter nirvana. Then the 2,000 people, some of whom had more to learn and some of whom did not, having heard their predictions from the Buddha, rejoiced ecstatically and spoke in verse. "O Bhagavat, the light of wisdom, we have just heard you give us our predictions, and our minds are full of joy, just as if we had been sprinkled with the Dharma of immortality." The Lotus Sutra. 157. Chapter X. The expounder of the Dharma. Thereupon the Bhagavat, by addressing Bodhisattva Bhagyaja, Medi Sini king, through him addressed 80,000 Masattvas, saying, "O Bhagyaja, in this assembly do you see innumerable humans and non-humans such as Devas, Nga kings, Yakas, Gandharvas, Asuras, Garuvas, Kinnars, Mauragas, monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen, those seeking the Avaka vehicle, the Pratyekabuddha vehicle, and the Buddha path. If in the presence of the Buddha any beings such as these hear a single verse or line of the Lotus Sutra, and thereupon have even one thought of rejoicing in it, I will bestow upon them my prediction that they will attain highest complete enlightenment." The Buddha addressed Bhagyaja, saying, "If, after the parinirvana of the Tathagata, any being hears even a single verse or line of the Lotus Sutra, and thereupon has even one thought of rejoicing in it, I will bestow upon them the prediction that they will attain highest, complete enlightenment. If there is anyone who preserves, recites, explains, or copies even a single verse of the Lotus Sutra, or who respects this sutra as if it were a Buddha, or who reverently offers it various oas, perfumes, necklaces, fragrant ointments, scented powders, burning incense, canopies, ags, banners, clothing, or music, or who simply honors it with his palms pressed together, know, O Bhajyaja, that this person has already paid homage to tens of myriads of kois of Buddhas of the past. Such people have completed their great vow in the presence of all the Buddhas, and yet they have been born as humans out of their compassion for sentient beings. O Bhajyaja, if anyone should ask you what kind of sentient being will become a Buddha in the future, you should inform them that it is those of this kind who will definitely become Buddhas in the future. Why is this? If there are any sons or daughters of a virtuous family who preserve, recite, explain, and copy even a single line of the Lotus Sutra, or who pay homage to this sutra with various offerings of oas, perfumes, necklaces, the Lotus Sutra, scented powders and ointments, burning incense, canopies, ags, banners, clothing, or music, or who honor it with their palms pressed together, such people should be respected by the entire world. They should be revered in the same way as the Tathagata is revered. Know that these people are great bodhisattvas who are to attain highest, complete enlightenment. Out of their compassion for sentient beings, they wish to be born among them in order to expound and explain the Lotus Sutra far and wide. How much more to be honored are those who completely preserve the entire sutra and pay homage to it with various offerings. O Bhajyaja, you should know that after my parinirvana these people will set aside the rewards of their pure karma and be born in the true bled world out of their compassion for sentient beings, and in order to expound this sutra far and wide. After my parinirvana, if there are any sons and daughters of a virtuous family who expound even a single line of the Lotus Sutra in private to even a single person, they should be acknowledged as the ambas Shardayas of the Tathagata. They have been dispatched by the Tathagata and carry out the Tathagata's work. As for those who extensively teach among the common people, know that they are yet greater ambassadors. O Bhajyaja, if there are erring people during a kalpa, those with troubled thoughts who always disparage the Buddha in his presence, their fault is nonetheless slight. Yet if there are those who disparage the laity or ordained people who recite the Lotus Sutra even with a single evil